Welcome to day 7. My name's Bren Murphy. This is the Mindfulness Makeover Mindset with Mindbodycalm, and today we're approaching mindfulness as a way to overcome and relieve stress. Now, this is one of the key benefits or the key features of mindfulness that people first come to the practice for. So what happens is people are lost in stress and overwhelm and fatigue and exhaustion, and a way forward, a way out of that state is mindfulness. And people first come to mindfulness from that position. So if you're not in that state, if you're in a state of sort of normalness now, you're in such a better position to begin. But if you're coming from a state of exhaustion and stress and overload and overwhelm, this might be the first video you're watching, so welcome. This is day 7. There are 6 previous episodes to make use of. First thing I'd like to say is, if you are new or if you're returning out on day 7, all techniques, I'd just like to stress, all techniques of mindfulness and accessing a mindful state are beneficial. There's multiple ways to get to the same state, and they're all equally valid, even though they take different routes. So I'm just giving you the permission, or give yourself power, or allow yourself to learn or be exposed to different modalities, because they're all equally valid. One version I've just come across recently was the idea of learning mindfulness to have a coin in your pocket, in your left hand pocket of your jeans or your trousers, and every 15 minutes take it out of that left hand pocket and then put it in your right hand, and then put it into your right hand pocket of your jeans. And then 15 minutes later you take it out of your right hand pocket and put it in your left hand pocket. Take it out of your left hand pocket, put it in your right hand pocket, and do that every 15 minutes. And I'm sure he was a Buddhist monk, said something like, within weeks or months you'll become in a heightened state of mindfulness just through that practice. And it shows how a physical, in the body practice relates so powerfully to realigning your mind state, because simply being aware of that, the physicality of the coin in your pocket, and knowing that in time you'll have to be moving it to the other pocket, having that awareness about you brings such a relevance to the present and such an intensity to the moment that you're mindful. You'll be mindful so often, so regularly, within 15 minutes, every 15-minute cycle of the day. It'll keep you in that state. So one of the goals we're aiming with mindfulness is to bring it as a natural default state, and that's what this coin idea is. As we become more mindful, it actually becomes our natural state. Our natural state is to move with that grace and awareness of mindfulness all the time. So we don't leave doors open. We know to gently close the door. We don't forget where our keys are because we're mindful. We make time for others, and we allow people to move into line. Things like that, we're just mindful as a natural default setting. So as an unmindful person, your natural default state would be the wandering mind. So your mind is torn and tossed around like a cork in the ocean, depending on your mood, your emotions, your outside stimulus. Random acts can just rock you and put you in this state or that state. When you're mindful, you have this grounded rock solidness. And what I'd like to share also on that is that it's not a state of detachment. It's not as if you're cut off from the world. Some people get that confused. And it's not detachment. It's actually so the opposite of being detached and cut off. You're actually so connected and engaged that you're present in each moment as it evolves, that you're totally with it, if that's a way to sort of explain it. So these steps are steps to finding yourself, and we'll move through to the next stage. And these are the steps to finding yourself, and one of them is the real you. What is the real you? And the real you, to begin with, is accepting and realizing that you are not the voice in your mind. You are not, and it's being variously called the inner critic, the inner voice, the monkey mind, your subconscious, your idle thoughts. That voice that you hear, and the explanation was, if I said, can you look to the right and stare at the wall for 10 seconds? Okay, let's just do that. And within that 10 seconds, the voice in your mind would have said, what are we doing? What's going to happen next? Why are we doing this? What am I doing? What we're staring at the wall? How long is this going to take? Your inner voice would have said something like that. That is not you. That is your inner voice. So, but a lot of people mistakenly base their identity on what their inner voice says. Okay, with mindfulness, we identify the inner voice as merely, we take away all that weight and authority of the inner voice, and we can choose to set it aside and simply observe it, and we become the experiencer of this voice. So like the spiral here, the wind, if you can read that, the inner voice is the wind, and our real self is down here as we get into the spiral. Oh, that's a magnificent diagram of it. This is the real you. That inner voice you hear is just that surface wind, and it can, as you can see, it can be facing any direction. So it can be saying anything, doing anything on top, whereas the real you is deep underwater, and that's an image of water flows in the ocean, how wind affects the direction of the current. And even you can see wind will move the surface of the water one way, but as you go down, it moves it actually in the completely opposite direction once you get to a certain level, doesn't it? So the real depth, the real meat of the of you is not the surface. The next step was about being mindful. As you gain more experience, you're less prone to being lost in your thoughts, because for this reason up here, we know the voice in your mind is not you, okay? And we don't base our identity on it, and we can actually go, oh, my inner voice is saying, for example, I'm hungry. Then your inner voice goes, I forgot to make lunch this morning because I was arguing with my partner. I was arguing with my partner because we haven't organised what we're going to do with the cat on the weekend. If we'd organised the cat to be kept at my aunt's house, then we wouldn't have had that argument. Then I would have made my lunch. Like, you can get into that little story, and suddenly you're talking about your relationship with your aunt about your cat, when it actually comes back to why you haven't got lunch made. So that's getting lost in your thoughts. And when we're mindful, we go, hey, wait a minute, pause, take space, take a breath. I don't have lunch, let's deal with the present, let's be here, be present, and we'll go and find lunch or make another plan. We don't need to get lost in that thought, the inner voice. So you're managing your thoughts better. Another word is self-regulating. And when you can self-regulate, you're so much more empowered and independent, and you're not beholden to outside influences. You're not beholden to counsellors, medications. Okay, that's what we're looking for. Self-regulation. It's true personal power, because our mind makes our world. As we've seen before, our thoughts become things. So if we're managing our thoughts, we are not lost in our thoughts, and we're managing our world and our life experience. The great quote here from Marcus Aurelius is, the whole universe is change, and life itself is what you deem it. So it's almost our attitude or our approach is based on that acceptance of change. And I'm sure I'll put it down here, the idea of change is really powerful with mindfulness, because what we're doing is accepting change as a fundamental given. It's just what the state of things is change, and we are not overly attached or locked onto things, going they cannot change. We go, yep, they will change. We expect them to change, and we're cool with that. And that gives us an amazing sense of resilience and well-being, because we're prepared for change. Our expectation is of change, so we're developing more helpful mental habits. And this quote here from Epictetus is, "Do not seek to have events happen as you want them to, but instead want them to happen as they do happen, and your life will go well." Essentially, what I've talked up here is about controlling things, not having control. And this quote here literally says, do not seek to control your environment and everything, but instead be accepting and open and say, yes, things will happen as they happen, and be cool with it, and you will enjoy life more. So let go of controlling the outcome, and instead focus on surfing the wave as it happens. As things unfold, go, oh, this is how it's unfolding, and be humbly accept it and compassionately accept it, and be gentle with yourself and go with it. Going with the flow is another version of it. So there's 5 or 6 tips. One is seeing life as a challenge, not as failure or success. This is a great one for mindfulness. And fundamentally, I learnt this, it was a big one for me. Am I seeing this stage right now, today, as the beginning of my family, my story, my business, or is it the end? Is my family, business story, the journey, is it blossoming, or is it in decay and decline? And you will have, on that spectrum from blossom to decay, like birth to death, where is your story, or your relationship will be at one stage of that, your family will be at another stage, your relationship with key stakeholders, your business relationship, every relationship and everything in your mind is a part of that spectrum. So if you see your marriage as in a decline or nearing the end, you'll act accordingly. But if you see it as a blossoming, emerging, organic, growing, evolving young thing, you'll treat it differently as well. That's why there's a natural tendency to go for younger hires, because their vision is just naturally younger, isn't it? They're not seeing it as hiring someone who's 62 is going to see things as a short time frame, as though it's sort of the end, or it's in decline. That's a very basic explanation of that. Excuse me. Your explanatory story, your commentary defines your experience. So what you tell yourself, again harking back to the earlier statements, what you tell yourself about your story literally defines it. So it's seeing life as a challenge, not as a black and white, not as that binary win-lose. Seeing it as a challenge, as a dynamic thing. Next one is stress. Seeing stress as a natural, normal function of life. So when we become comfortable, and I like to use the word anxiety here, I've noticed with working with clients that some clients don't see anxiety as a normal function of life. They see it as something to be feared or shunned or ashamed of or guilty about, or to be in despair about anxiety or avoid it, when actually anxiety is a natural part of everyone's flow on a daily basis. And when you come home to that and see it as a normal part of life, it's so much healthier for everyone. It helps with optimal function in times of fight or flight. Stress does, so does anxiety. And knowing when the indicators within your body of anxiety and stress, you're better able to respond, and you're not seeing it as foreign or giving it an illness story. What we touched on back here, if you're wrapping a story around anxiety as an illness or a weakness or something of shame, you're less likely to respond positively to it, are you, when you feel it? But if you go, oh, here's anxiety, here's stress, this is a key part of my day, and that's what I have learnt, was to see the anxious part or the stressful part as it's only probably 8 or 12 minutes of an entire day. If you lift for that 8 or 12 minutes, knowing that it's only for that long, you can go, oh, it's over now. I've dealt with my anxiety stress for today. I can move on. Like that key trigger moment. So expect anxiety, expect stress. And even though it sounds challenging, through mindfulness, we're trying to make it an old friend. Come home and be comfortable with it. Now, growth mindset. This is as much mindfulness as it is life coaching, and it comes from Carol Dweck's book about the growth mindset. And a growth mindset is based on the idea that you see yourself and things as they can be learned through practice and dedication and effort, instead of seeing things as a fixed natural talent or flair or ability or a gift. So if you think being a good swimmer is just a natural gift and you've either got it or you haven't, you won't persist, you won't keep trying, you won't try different strokes, you won't try different strategies, you won't keep training as hard, because you go, well, I haven't got the natural gift of swimming, I'm never going to be good at it. You withdraw earlier, you quit sooner. So having a growth mindset is when you believe that improvement and development is an organic part of trying, repeated effort, practice. There's no fixed natural talent that is permanent. For sure you might be a talented natural swimmer for the first beginner stage, but once you get beyond that beginner stage to sort of mid-level or pro level, it just comes down to pure hard work and commitment and dedication, as we know. So that's a growth mindset. And depending on your self-belief, it determines your eventual success. A study with college students said if they see their results as something based on natural talent and innate ability, they're less likely to persist in times of struggle, and they actually there's a bigger dropout and a bigger failure rate from them in courses. So simply being aware of a growth mindset is really powerful. So number 4 is letting go of control of the outcome. So it's like releasing butterflies. When we put our work out into the world or the universe, we're releasing butterflies, and the butterfly can fly to that flower or to that flower or into a spider web or fly up in the air and get eaten by a bird. It's let go of control of the outcome, because you do not have control of the outcome. For sure, you've tried your hardest, you've put the work in, you've done as much as you could in preparation, but the actual outcome as you deliver the butterfly is beyond your control. And trying to have control once you release the butterfly is toxic and will exhaust you. It doesn't really matter when you zoom out of the perspective. This is a fantastic strategy of looking at things when you zoom in on them with a camera and you look at the actual tiny, like the movements. It looks like to see a biscuit landing on a plate, it looks like the earth is shuddering and giant crumbs are like boulders. But when you zoom out and you look at a biscuit on a plate, even if you zoom out just 10 meters, you can't even see it. Like, it doesn't really matter in the big scheme of life and the universe and everything. But when you're intensely focusing on it in a macro lens, it looks like, oh, the biscuit snapped and these boulders of crumbs of thumping down on the plate. But zoom out even 10 meters and the biscuit is the size of a grain of sand. So there are alternatives, there are different opportunities, there's different, and you can move out in space and time. That's just with the outcome. There are different alternatives, there are different opportunities, there are more opportunities coming. Another option with mindfulness is reframing the thought. So I've put a gold frame there. So we choose the context of the perception of our thought. So to have a thought, and a good example was to see a little baby turtle hatching from the egg and crawling down on the sand, and a seagull flying down and picking up the little baby turtle. So the context of the perception, is it hostile? It is if you're looking at it from the context of the little baby turtle. But if you're looking at it from the context of the seagull's little babies up in the nest, and the mother seagull has just got some food for them, and the little seagull, and she takes it back and they eat the food, and the little baby seagulls go, oh, we're going to live another day. Like it's a beautiful part of life, isn't it? So it depends the context of your perception. If you see things as hostile, they are hostile. The option is to see things as not threatening, not as a failure, but as a challenge, as exciting, as a curious, with a enthusiastic curiosity. That's what we want to see things. So whenever you feel threatened or hostile, step it back, flip it around, reframe it, and see it as a challenge, as exciting, or as something to be simply curious about. And it'll disarm you, and you'll approach it really a lot more lighter, and you'll be more mindful just by doing that, because we have the power now to manipulate how we think about our thinking, our metacognition. Meaningful. What is your purpose? So with mindfulness, when it is part of our purpose, and when it's in alignment with our essential nature, it adds that much more power to it. When we say, oh, actually my mindfulness is meaningful because it helps me be a better parent, helps me be a better husband, be a better father, be a better son, be a better family member, be a better business partner, that's when it has real meaning. So mindfulness is I've loved this analogy. It's a pair of glasses. Like we're going to have the rose-colored glasses. Mindfulness shifts your worldview. Mindfulness is knowing what we are thinking when we are thinking it. It's that awareness. There's awareness there. Oh, I'm thinking that because I'm thinking that. You're not lost. You're not just having a wandering mind. Mindfulness is awareness of our patterns and our habits of thought. Without wishing it were different, we can enjoy pleasantness without holding on to it, without grasping at pleasantness. And when we're in an unpleasant state or moment, we can know with certainty that it will end and change. So there's the two sides. Knowing beauty and passion and pleasantness ends, and being okay with knowing it will end, but also in the same breath knowing that pain and suffering and unpleasantness will also change. So mindfulness fundamentally is about simplicity. It's about minimal stepping back, and it's never about multitasking. My name's Bren Murphy. I have a Mindfulness Training Online. These are part of the first 8 days, the introduction. You can find out more at my blog, brenmurphy.net. My Facebook is fb.com/mindbodycalm. My personal Facebook is Coach Bren. I'd love you to go back to the beginning if this is your first video in this series, or keep going. There's one more video to come. Thanks a lot.